Hey everybody, welcome to CTP. That's what we're calling it now, I guess. This I know I usually post Thursday morning-ish, but this video went into it almost like became its own thing. I went in doing one thing, and it came out completely different in the best way possible. So what I wanted to give you for this Thursday was diving into some more areas in the Middle East, some more, go deeper, maybe do some, Mesopotamian, Sumerian, Akkadian stuff. And, one word in what we're going to go over, the Enki and the World Order Sumerian tablet. One word threw me down this rabbit hole where I have so many notes, and then I kept finding similarities after that note. And I go, well, instead of just doing a reading, we're going to do the reading. And it's a really awesome text. Like, I had a lot of fun reading it. I'll put the link down below too. But there's an argument going around that has been, since I've been in this, my wife says it's a spiritual journey that I'm on. And I just like calling it textually accurate. That's what I call it. And the similarities in this tablet, plus the dating, and let's just do, instead of just saying the Pentateuch, which first 5 books of the Old Testament, so usually attributed to Moses, but it's mostly Genesis is what I'm looking at. The dates, one, are completely off, like from what I was taught, and this tablet. Now this tablet predates, and we'll get into this later. I don't mean to do it right away at the intro and give it all away. But it predates this Genesis story, so the dates aren't even close. It's funny how close or how not close they are. The thing that is close is the things that we normally attribute to, let's say, in Christian circles, Yahweh God, right, are so similar in this tablet that I had to go over it. I just had to. So, again, a little intro bit there. Thanks for being here. Let's get into it. Enki and the World Order is essentially this tablet name. Now, it not like I almost said possessed. I'm not possessed. But as I'm diving into this, the notes are just crazy. I'm going through it. I'm down here in the office for a couple hours, and I'm reading this, and I'm just thinking about the thing we've said all the time, which is the difference between a myth and religion is just the distance from source, right? How the farther away we get, we're they probably didn't think of that. Religion, I'm when I'm reading this text, and it is Sumerian, so it is not we have, Akkadian, Babylonian, we have all the other ones after, but this one, Sumerian for sure. And so it's the oldest version of this tablet that we're going to read. And as I'm reading it, it does feel like a religious book. It feels like if you read Genesis and you're wow, this is amazing, right? That's exactly how it feels when I'm reading this tablet. And so I thought we'd kick it off, and we start with the view that I always have to kind of balance both sides with. One, not to offend anyone's belief system. That's not the point of doing this. Again, it's just to be textually accurate and then give you guys something to look at and go, oh, that kind of opened up a new thing for me. Unlocked a new way that I can think about the world. And so the beginning piece would be scholarship consensus versus, let's just say, a theological argument for Genesis. So I had to go in there, and I was always taught Moses wrote the first 5 books. No problem, no questions. And I was where do we get that? That's just something I heard, and I go, okay, no problem. So I have to catch a lot of people that I talk to, whether it's in my friend group, any social circles. You guys, if you email me or message me. Thank you, by the way, if you do that. I really do read them and I appreciate it. Because if you're using, it's like a runaround. If you're using the Bible to then validate the Bible, right? That's not really one, being honest, and two, being accurate. You keep the wheels moving. You're just using the same source to validate the source that you're trying to validate by using a source that we're going to presuppose is valid, right? It just keeps going. And so the dating, from the theological view, would be a Moses timeline, which, again, that's a whole nother episode that would be fun to do. Did Moses exist? That's a fun one. And it's about 1420 BCE is that dating. Now, if you go to the people who read the text, they were there with the Dead Sea Scrolls. They were there with our earliest fragments before. So we just had the Masoretic text. Dead Sea Scrolls pushed it back 1,000 years. So we're like, holy crap. Like we have a lot more to work with. And when they started doing that, the Torah's final form would have been completely compiled. So the Torah is the Hebrew Bible. So that was about 3rd or 2nd century BCE. Now the Pentateuch, right, just the first 5, would have been, around, I think I put, 539 to like 333 BCE. So not even close to the theological argument. And just to keep it simple, another book that I read up there that's really good, I can't think of the name right now, but it's called the documentary hypothesis, which is the multiple sources that were combined over time, which is J, E, D, and P. So they put those sources, they all have different dates between this timeline. And so, no one who's in the field really has like a single, they're all unanimous almost, except for a small minority that Moses did not write those. Cool. So that's where we're going to end with that. Sorry, this is like really exciting. Like I'm glad that this one word completely shifted, because it opens it up for me, right? Like it's for you guys, for me. I get an outlet, you get something that maybe there's people around you that don't think the way that, you maybe you're more open to something or not so rigid, I guess I would say. And like for me, this has been a really good exercise because, one, I know I'm going to mess up. Like I know it's not going to be accurate. I'm just finding things. But maybe I can interview people that would in the future. And if you guys have any of that suggestions or, God forbid, contact information, that'd be awesome, because I love to talk to these people. And so the theological argument, it's not that old. We're going to stick with the Persian period, which is 539 to 333. Now, this tablet, the Enki and the World Order tablet, insane, right? So the minimum is 1500 BCE. So the estimation is like 2000 to 1500. Now, based on an oral tradition and transition of the text, right? It pushes it back. And so it was likely, they say it was likely reworked around 2100 to like 2000 BCE. That's incredibly old. And it's Sumerian. So it's the oldest language that we have, period. Far none, bar none, period. And so the fact that it's forever away from Genesis, I just wanted to make that clear. And why I wanted to make that clear in the beginning is because it sounds so similar. There are things that are different, right? Of course, you don't have a very rigid, I'm going to call it henotheistic, which is there are multiple gods, but we pick one, right? Very less monotheistic than you think. So it's more henotheistic. So, again, I'm excited to get into the text. But the word was, because I remember saying this passage over and over and over in church or like in, my little small groups. And it's the one that it's just so easy. because I saw it on a billboard the other day. It's just everywhere, which is John 3:16, right? And the word is begotten. And I'm like, I'm going to be honest with myself. I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
I have no idea what that means at all. So I started to look it up because that word was in the first sentence of this tablet. And so there's a ton of notes in here. I'm not going to try to draw it out. We're trying to keep them, condense little informational bits so it's not to overload. And so let's just go with begetter, right? Which just means like progenitor, right? So it's in the context of the tablet, it's like the primordial gods responsible for creating the cosmos, and then the subsequent generations of deities that are after. And so begetter generally refers to the originators of existence from like the fundamental elements of the world that lead to the eventual creation of humanity. Right? And so, because that makes sense, right? Like in the Bible, it's usually referred to Yahweh being the unbegotten, right? So not created per se. And again, that's shifting, right? We'll get into that too. But like the sense of procreation with the word like beget, right? It says, I pulled this in the dictionary too. Generally used of the father only, right? And we started getting to procreate around like 1200, right? And so begotten, which is procreated, we get that past particle adjective from beget about 1400, based on what this says. And so when I put this down, again, I used to say only begotten son in John 3:16. That's all gone. Like that doesn't exist anymore. They're using one and only because that's the most, it's what it means. It's the most accurate. Because the word in Greek is I think it's monogeneous, right? Which usually just means unique or, like I said, one and only, and not begotten in this sense of like a physical birth or like made by Yahweh God, right? Which kind of throws the whole birth narratives out of whack. Because the whole thing that we used to do is that, the Holy Spirit created and gave birth, and then Mary gave birth to this thing. Like that's a very big play in that passage. So puts that on its head. And so now the older translations here, and I didn't know this, that use begotten are based on the Latin Vulgate's interpretation. And so this led to a bunch of misconceptions. And so in order to combat the misconceptions that they made, they removed it from most versions, and then they put, unique, one and only, right? Yet that's not how, I'm not that old. Like, well, maybe I am. I'm 29. But when I was a kid, even 14, 15, we were reciting it with the word begotten. And I'm like, after doing this, yeah, that's probably not an accurate way to say this. The meaning of who Jesus was in this context. Now, it was just a weird, and this should show that mistranslation isn't like, no, it's the perfect word of God. From Greek, monogeneous, to Latin, I don't know how to say this, unigenitus it says, is as seen as a complete misunderstanding of the Greek word's components. So just between those two translations, it's completely wrong. And they just were like, take it out. Fix it. Put one and only or put unique. And then we can push this, this new idea that we have for the religious faith. Now, I didn't get a dating on that. And so if you're a Christian theologian, then the term begotten is then referring to Jesus as the Son of God who is not of God. Now, there are also arguments where the Trinity is not in there, you want to go to Dan McClellan, and you want to go to Bart Ehrman for those. And so again, like I said prior, that means that God the Father is unbegotten or like unoriginated, right? He's just been and has always been. And so it's just a way of emphasizing that unique relationship that God and Jesus would share. But the translation got me, and I go, oh, that's a good like pin in the hat if someone is arguing for the inerrant word of God. There's a lot of arguments. I'm not saying there aren't more than that, but that one, that's a pretty good one for me. So I learned something new, you learned something new. Or maybe you didn't. So I give props. You're smarter than me then, because I didn't know that. I'm just the dumb Midwestern kid who has a computer at his desk. And so by switching those, right, it changes at least the New Testament perspective. Now, if you go to, and I found this as well, Hebrews 11:17-19 describes Isaac, the son of Abraham, not the only begotten son of Abraham, but was chosen having special virtue. So it's just saying that Isaac was the only legitimate child of Abraham, which still means from the Father I created you. I don't even know how to say that in a verbal, like in a verb, like I made you and I like you. That's why you have the word. I hate all the other ones. I just like you. And so in a big roundabout way, it just means that he's acknowledging that this son is the one that God promised. And so he's the only legitimate son for this covenant in the Old Testament. So it's just a literary, play around with words. But it doesn't take away from the fact that in Greek, that word is always in the context of a child with genes, right? DNA, creating from me to making a child. Boom. Monogeneous. Thank you. Who am I saying thank you to? And so, there are even early church fathers, we won't go into that reference this to like the rebirth of the phoenix, which I think is unique. But even in Plato's Timaeus, the only begotten and created heaven, right, is still unique in how it is begotten. And so John 1:18 also has only begotten God or only begotten Son as a weird confusion for Jesus. And so I wanted to put in here that same word, a two-source kind of comparison here. There are two different translations for both, only begotten God, which is monogeneous theos, right? And that also could mean unique God. And so that, in John 1:18, that is the variant that exists that is supported by the earlier manuscripts. So the one that isn't the earlier manuscript would be, I have it up here, I think. Yes. And so instead of being only begotten Son, which would be the later manuscripts, the earlier ones would be that unique God or only begotten God, which I think is very, very unique. So another one in this word of the context of the text in Greek, Latin mistranslation, and then now later in history trying to make up for what the heck that actually means, or how can we essentially change it to fit this narrative currently. And so again, it all comes down to scribal abbreviations that got mistranslated. So just a result of scribal error. So you can't say that even the text is inerrant, because this is very easily proof that there's big scribal errors, especially with that. Because John is the one that is used all the time, right? Like, I remember sitting there on Sunday and I'm like, I never hear from any of the other ones. Like, it's always John. And I get it because it's poetic and beautiful and nice. But like the other ones are pretty important too. Maybe Matthew a lot, like Matthew and John. But like Luke was like here, that validates this. Or like, Mark, don't even use that. They were like, read that if you want to like get the gist, then read the real Gospels. And I'm like, I thought the whole thing was the real Gospel. Anyway, that's me sitting in the pew. But the whole connection to this Sumerian tablet, holy crap, it's been a while just giving you the intro. I apologize. Thank you for staying if you're this far in. And so, in this, the term begotten, right, it's used to show lineage, right, which is combining word for the father with the verbs that indicate the act of being fathered. And I go, okay, interesting. And so in this tablet, it's, again, one of the most important Sumerian myths. And the details are how Enki organizes the universe after a catastrophe and the world's in chaos. Everything's chaotic. And so when I'm reading this tablet as if Enki, because just my background, as if Enki is Yahweh God in Genesis. And I'm reading it going, holy shit, dude. Like, this is so close. And, you know, there is a pretty good argument where I don't think they wrote it original. I don't think it was the original writing they did. They might have grabbed some stuff from those really old tablets, like 1,500 years prior. Unique connection. I also remember that Abraham's from the land of Ur, which is a Sumerian city. Fun fact. And so it's distinct from the Babylonian one, but it emphasizes this divine, like, Enki as this divine craftsman figure who brings order to this entire chaotic thing. And when I was reading that, it reminded me of Genesis and how in the NRSVUE, right, another thing was, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, which is creation from ex nihilo, right, creation from nothing. And that is not the consensus at all. So the consensus now, and I'll put a screenshot here, I'll just do verses 1, 2, and 3 of Genesis 1. So now it says, when God began to create the heavens and the earth was complete chaos and darkness, covered the face of the deep, while a wind from God swept over the face of the waters. Then God said, let there be light, and there was light. So, in doing it correctly, as I would say, to be textually accurate, it means the planet was here, the cosmos were here, everything was already here. The material was... How do I put this? It means that everything was already here, like the pieces were all built, like a Lego. He's just using the pieces to create something from this chaotic mess of Legos. That's a good analogy for a nerd like me. Which is a whole different meaning than him crafting each atomic atom, the levels of structuring, the way that it's a completely different theological view. That things like this make me really upset, because then everyone is believing something that isn't accurate. I hate that, because then side note, but when we make a belief and we lock that in, and then someone who they changed it, right? Immediately, because you've locked that into your head, now I'm a villain. Now I'm a guy who's just trying to be accurate, but now I'm a bad person because I'm attacking your character, your belief system, right? You're assuming that I'm calling you dumb or blah. I'm like, I'm not doing any of those things. I'm just saying that if we want to be textually accurate, got to use the NRSVUE, because that's what the scholarship uses. And they just did that updated edition. And this is in that updated edition. So you can keep holding on to it if you want to, but I'm not going to, because that's not textually accurate. And I think that's being you're purposely saving truth and not, that's exactly right. You're saving truth for yourself so you can push the motive to others. And it just like makes me feel gross. Like, I don't know. It just always has. And granted, I was that troublemaker in like youth group who would always ask these questions, and then the pastor would be like, yeah, ask me. We can do a private office session if you want, Chase. But right now, we're just going to do a little bit of the prayer. Go ahead and eat your chicken nuggets and your mac and cheese for youth group. And, yeah, leave me alone. And I was like, I just wanted to be accurate. But in this tablet and in Genesis 1, you'll see very clearly they're very close. Even I've highlighted, there's a section right in the middle that is, it'll be fun. But I like that I can tie it in because of keeping up to date with like the scholarship and some of these guys who are doing real good ground level work with textual analysis. Like, it makes sense for the ancient Near East. Like, where they're at, this would be it would be what they're hearing, right? It's all based on the people, the society that's interjecting into this text. What do they want to use this for? How are they moving the needle on this? And something that I've been working on, but it's getting very extensive for a video, but I think I might cut it into 2 parts, is this Bronze Age collapse. And then when everything collapses during the Bronze Age, then religion becomes almost like this control system structure, not in a way that's, negative or fear driving or, the only motive that it really has is to keep things from not collapsing again. And so I'll do a 2-part on that one because it's a lot of information, but it's really fascinating. And so they both share this, chaotic, unformed type material dark place that God and Enki share, right? Yahweh and Enki share to then, craft something uniform and beautiful from it. And so the key themes that we're going to go through in this tablet: the importance of the divine plan and the establishment of order the importance of a divine plan and the establishment of order for a successful society. The God's pride and self-praise for his work, Enki, in creating civilization and organizing the world. The role of divine favor in securing prosperity for cities and humankind. 4, the creative and life-giving power of water, which is associated with the god Enki. Very, very getting into it. All right. 30 minutes in, approximately, and now we're going to start reading the text. So, I found this translation. It looks like, I can't really tell what it's from, but sometimes there'll be dots, which is, we can't really read what that is. And sometimes it'll say there are 2 lines or 4 lines that are unclear. And so if I say that, that's just means it means they're being textually accurate because they can't properly translate what it's saying, right? It could be there, but it's just unclear. So we're not going to try to guess or put it in there yet. We'll keep working on it. And so as I started reading this, because I just Googled, I have a book that's all the Mesopotamian myths. And so I said, what's the earliest Mesopotamian myth that's close to like creation? And it gave me some, and this was it. And I read verse 1, and I go, it's sold. It's locked in. So, Lord of heaven and earth, self-reliant Father Enki, engendered by a bull, begotten by a wild bull, cherished by Enlil the great mountain, beloved by holy On, King Mes tree planted in the Apsu, rising over all lands. And so something that's important too is that Eridu here, so the great dragon who stands in Eridu, Eridu is the city, like the first city. And so I'll finish that too. The great dragon who stands in Eridu, whose shadow covers heaven and earth. So we got the shadow part, heaven and earth, darkness, then there becomes light, creation, building something from that. But Eridu is the place where Enki is the god of. And so that's important too. In ancient Sumerian, these were dwelling places for the gods, these cities, 2 specific ones. And so Enki, from whom a single glance is enough to unsettle the heart of the mountains, wherever bison are born, where stags are born, where ibex are born, where wild goats are born, in meadows, ... in hollows in the heart of the hills, in green ... Unvisited by man, you have fixed your gaze on the heart of the land like a hull reed. So right there, it's saying that there are animals, wildlife, Garden of Eden, but man is not here yet. Man doesn't exist. Do you see where we get in Genesis now? Let's get into it. And so, blowing my mind. Like, I'm reading it again. I'm like, I did all these notes, and I'm still going, holy crap, why is this entire civilization completely discredited? Especially if they're way older, right? And I think that we get locked into this weird way of thinking where it can't be. Like, there's no way. Like, no, I'm this defensive wall-building belief system, like, mine. It's mine, right? Like, that's all I see is, like, mine. And I know that because I was there, too. Like, I have a giant cross tattoo when I was 18 on my right arm. It's crappy, and it had to be redone twice. And it has tribal behind it like it's 1990. And I was 18, and I was like, that's because I know for a fact this is it. And my wife was asking me, are you gonna cover it up, or are you gonna do? And I go, no. I think there'll be a time where someone is gonna ask that, like, or not ask, but even just say, hey, you haven't really given this a fair look. Like, it's and they're gonna go into this path of like trying to convert. And I go, hold on, I've already been there. I know it to the point where I decided I need a reminder on my arm, a tattoo, to lock it in. Like, that's how locked in the faith was. And being vulnerable and honest with you guys, that's what's going to be important here. Like, it's on me, permanent. And I'm like, I think that'll be a good example, whether it's now or in the future, when those conversion things start to pop up. And I'm like, oh, that's good. So even in a, backwards, reverse type, wandering through the maze, right? This tattoo was still a good idea for 18-year-old Chase. Now, we're going to go, and I blocked these off. I'll try to put them somewhere that's not so, like, blocking the camera, I guess. But, like, this will be 17 to 31. And I'm reading the highlighted parts so we can kind of, like, go through it. The parts that really stood out to me. Because some of them, they kind of keep going and going and going. So we're starting at 17. Counting the days and putting the months in their houses, so as to complete the years and to submit those completed years to the assembly for a decision, taking decisions to regularize the days. Father Enki, you are the king of the assembled people. Okay, immediately, Enki is Yahweh in this case. Now, something to remember is On is like Plato's version of the good, right? The ultimate, that all there is, that created all there is, and so, but the one beneath him, Enki. And there's something I heard the other day about, there's a really early how do I say it? I think it is Deuteronomy. In Deuteronomy, the oldest fragment, one of them, has this weird thing where Yahweh overtakes essentially either another deity or something above him, and then gets to be here, because it also kind of plays into this demiurge type thing that develops in, later Gnosticism. And so this also seems very common, of like Enki being Yahweh in this way, and regulating days, making, there's a whole nother, the moon is fake, like that. You can go as far as you want with that one. But he does set time. He sets the days, he sets everything, he creates everything for, oh yeah, we're not there yet, right? We haven't showed up yet. Man is not in here yet. And so another mythos type, theological argument, a lot of it, like this one, it says, the shepherd sweetly sings his rustic song. The cowherd spends the day rocking his churns, and their products would do honor to the late lunches in the god's great dining hall. Okay. So remember that in the ancient Near East, these gods were very active and they were active in the land. So there's lots of references to them living somewhere, the Sumerian, to be specific, even very minutely in like Genesis, for example, as well. But it's honor, they eat, right? Like there's plenty of like in Leviticus, there's plenty of, oh, why do we do this sacrifice? And it's because the odor pleases the Lord. And it threw me off. Like they have senses. Like it's very active in this material world that they interact with human beings. And so I thought it was very interesting that they're worried about late lunches. What are we going to eat? They're like, don't worry. Enki here. I'll fix it. I can put some food on the table. I'll make it. And then, it'll be great. We'll have late lunches in the great dining hall. Sounds wonderful. But, eating is a good mythos in this as well. And then 32 through 37, we get, your words fill the young man's heart with vigor, so that like a thick-horned bull he butts about in the courtyard. I'm guessing it's a reference to being sexual, like being horny. And then it says, you bestow loveliness on the young woman's head so that the people in their settled city gaze at her in wonder, right? Made women beautiful, men testosterone-driven, horny people. And then under there it says two lines that are unclear. So Enlil, right, the brother, right, is in reference here the great mountain, commissioned you to gladden the hearts of lords and rulers and wish them well. Enki, Lord of prosperity, Lord of wisdom, Lord, the beloved of On, the ornament of Eridu, who establishes commands and decisions, who well understands the decreeing of fates. You close up the days, ... and make the months enter their houses. Another reference to time. You bring down ... You have reached their number. You make the people dwell in their dwelling places. Another Yahweh mythos, along with time, right? Lord of prosperity, right? You make them follow their herdsmen, ... Two lines, unclear. And then 50 to 51, I just put another reference to you make the people safe in their dwellings, right? The Lord is, my shepherd, right? It's a very common peace in my dwelling. Like that immediately, bam, just hit me like a freight train. All right. 52 to 60. When Father Enki goes forth to the inseminated people, Enki, inseminated people, good seed will come forth. That was a good one. And then you have Nidinamud, who comes forward, right? And goes forth to the good pregnant ewes, good lambs will be born. And I put that there because of the lamb mythos. Hold on. Sorry about that. I had to take that phone call. Anyway, so I forgot exactly where we were going to go to. So I'm just going to, I remember we talked about the dwelling places. So, okay. Let's see. We're going to go 52 to 60. So when Father Enki goes forth to the inseminated, I already did that. All right. We're going to go 61 to 80. Enki, the king of the Abzu, justly praises himself in his majesty. My father, the king of heaven and earth, made me famous in heaven and earth. My elder brother, the king of all the lands, gathered up all the divine powers and placed them in my hand. Right? That will be Enlil, right? You guys are probably familiar with that. Just in general, if you know anything with Sumerian. Now this section has two words. One's a phrase, one's a word. But immediately I go, holy shit, this is Genesis. Almost immediately. I am the good semen, begotten by a wild bull. I am the firstborn of On. I am a great storm rising over the great earth. I am the great lord of the land. I am the principal among all rulers, the father of all the foreign lands. I am the big brother of the gods. I bring prosperity to perfection. I am the seal keeper of heaven and earth. I am the wisdom and understanding of all the foreign lands. With On the king on On's On days, or on's days, it's spelled D-A-I-S, I oversee justice. With Enlil looking out over the lands, I decree good destinies. He has placed in my hands the decreeing of fates in the place where the sun rises. Light, boom. I am cherished by Nintud. I am named with a good name, my Ninhursag. I am the leader of the Anu gods. I was born as the firstborn son of Holy An. What? Because the thing is the I am motif. The great I am. I am because I am. The whole Moses to God communication story. I am. There couldn't be more I ams in this passage. And again, the begotten came back up. And I first got hooked on that word, and then I got to here, and I go, this episode's gonna be great. So after the Lord, 81 to 83, after the Lord had proclaimed his greatness, after, I just highlighted that to say it again one more time. So all the Anu gods stood there in prayer and supplication, saying, praise be to Enki, the much praised Lord who controls all the arts, crafts, and who takes decisions. Now, 86 to 88, we have another motif. In high delight, Enki, king of the Abzu, justly praises himself. I am the Lord. I am one whose word is reliable. I am one who excels in everything. What? The Lord's to me. I am Enki. They stand before me. They stand before me, praising me. Right? The income and the nincome, Enkum and Ninkum officiants organize, ... They purify the river for me, water. They ... The interior of the shrine for me. Right? So I had to look up what those are, right? Turns out they're like misspellings. So income is Enki, nincome is Nin, which is lady, right? So there are officiants who organize the priests almost in this case. I'm not familiar with that one. Those words threw me off. So I wanted to make sure that those do have meaning, but it's later Akkadian when they conquered the Sumerians, and then maybe they just didn't get it right. So that's what those are. Now, this one gets into that speculation type story, which I think is interesting, but we'll save that for another time. But in this passage, he says, my barge, and it has like crown. The stag of the Abzu transports me there most delightfully. It glides swiftly for me. Interesting. Through the great marshes to wherever I have decided. It is obedient to me. The stroke collars make the oars pull in perfect unison. Okay. Now, if there isn't a tie-in to something having a craft that moves swiftly and without any, resistance to the air, wherever you want to go, and the ship's obedient to me. To me, that says, remember how in the UFO community and UAP hearings they talk about how consciousness is a big deal, and that the devices and the machines need consciousness to connect to it, to fly it? Immediately what I thought of. And then, of course, the crown chakra, or, the crown in Kabbalistic practices is like the top, right? Like, you're wanting to go through these levels to get there. And so this one was another one that just made me go, holy crap. Because then later also, so they have those, I'll just say it because it matches this tone right here, but there are ziggurats in these towns, right? In these cities, these places. These ziggurats are not worship centers, right? They are not places that you can just kind of go to, and that's in here as well. But they are housing places for gods themselves. So Enki in there only, right? Like, that's where he lives. This is where he dwells. And I go, if it's tall enough, right? He's probably parking this crown and letting all these stags of Abzu rest in there, right? This imagery is insane to me. Where, again, I'm not saying that's what it is, but if there is something I've learned over time, it's that history doesn't repeat itself, it really rhymes, right? Things come back around. That was a rhyme that I just could not include in this. And I know we're doing textual analysis and we're trying to be textually accurate, but I think maybe sometimes getting to that creative headspace opens up a way to combine both and bring something out of it. Anyway, so Nin Herzog, the captain of my barge, holds the golden scepter for me. I am Enki. He is in command of my boat, Stag of Abzu. I am the Lord, I will travel. I am Enki, I will go forth into my land. I, the Lord who determines the fates, ... 4 lines unclear. What a cliffhanger. But also, I highlighted the scepter part, because also that's a very common motif, whether it's a golden scepter, or Moses with his staff, right? Cracking open the rock and water pouring out, right? There's something to that as well. So that whole passage is kind of like a cool, that's 100 to 122. Very cool, speculative type thing. And so 192, 100 to 122. The rest of it is kind of, I don't know why I don't have it on here, to be honest with you. So we'll just do this live reading while I have it here, because I know where I stopped in my notes. So I have the passage up, and I'm just going to read these ones. I will admire its green cedars, like the lands of Mahula, Magan, and Dilmun. I know Dilmun's important. Look upon me, upon Enki. Let the Dilmun boats be loaded with timber. Let the Magan boats be loaded sky high. What? Let them be loaded sky high. Okay. Assuming they're boats. And let the Magalam boats of Melhua transport gold and silver to bring back to Nibiru for Enlil, king of all lands. Okay. The only thing I know about Nibiru is that it's that weird Billy Carson planet type deal. And that's where you get the transportation of like, oh, they need it. They're using it for resources. I have no idea exactly what that context is. So, since I have it here, we're going to do it together. Meaning in Sumerian religious text. Yeah, that's right. I'm being nice. I'm not going to call it a myth. Okay. Nibiru in Sumerian Babylonian means crossing or point of transition. Refers to a celestial body associated with the god Marduk, often identified with the planet Jupiter. Whoa, what? Okay. So it is a reference to a celestial body associated with the god Marduk. Jupiter. Okay. Oh, right here. It is not a mythical planet, but a term for a celestial point of reference or a specific planetary position. Huh. Nibiru translates to crossing, most likely in the context of a river crossing. In the celestial sense, it marks a crossing place in the sky. Okay. Or, are they going to Jupiter? Because that would make this more fun. Other texts identify Nibiru with Jupiter, particularly when it had certain positions in the sky. Okay. Yeah, the Zachariah Sitchin. I gotcha. He's the one who did that. So, if anything, it's using Jupiter in its position in the sky to guide them. Okay, perfect. He presented animals to those who have no city, to those who have no houses, to the Martu nomads. The Anu gods addressed affectionately the great prince who has traveled in this land. Lord who rides upon the great powers, the pure powers who controls the great powers, the numberless powers. Foremost in all the breadth of heaven and earth, who receive the supreme powers in Eridu, the holy place. Remember, Eridu, the town, that's the holy place. The most esteemed place, Enki, Lord of heaven and earth. That's important as well. Lots of praise in this one. All the lords and rulers, the incantation priests of Eridu, and the linen-clad priests of Sumer performed the purification rites of the Abzu for the great prince who has traveled to his land. For Father Enki, they stand guard in the holy place. Oh, like the tabernacle, maybe? The most esteemed place. They, ... the chambers, ... They, ... The emplacements, they purify the great shrine of the Abzu, ... They bring there the tall juniper, the pure plant. They organize the holy, ... in the great music room. Whoa, ... of Enki. Skillfully they build the main staircase of Eridu on the good Kwai. They prepare the sacred Uzga shrine where they utter endless prayers. 7 lines are missing, damaged, or unclear. Whoa. Super cool. 4 Enki, ... squabbling together, and the Sirhermak dart among the honey plants, again fighting amongst themselves for the great prince. The Exib wave their tails among the small Gizi reeds? Wow, why is that text so fuzzy? The Lord, the great ruler of the Abzu, issues instructions on board the Stag of Abzu ship. The great emblem erected in the Abzu providing protection. Its shade extended over the whole land and refreshing the people. Whoa. The principal foundation has a question mark. The pole planted in the ... marsh, rising high over all the foreign lands. The noble captain of the lands, the son of Enlil, holds in his hand the sacred punt pole, a mess tree ornamented in the Abzu, which received the supreme powers of Eridu, the holy place. The most esteemed place, the hero profoundly lifts his head towards the Abzu. 6 lines missing or unclear. God dang it. Not again. Whoa. So, okay. Son of Enlil, demigod almost, receives the sacred punt pole, which receives the supreme powers of Eridu, the holy place. Sweet. Sir, the boatman of the barge, the boat of the Lord, Ninhursag, the captain of the barge, holds the holy scepter for the Lord. There it is again. The 50 Lahama deities of the subterranean waters speak affectionately to him. What the heck? The stroke callers like heavenly gam-gam birds. What is the 50 Lahama deities? That's something we're doing. Sorry guys, this is going to be longer, but I think this is fascinating. Here we go. Let's see what you got for me. No, I'm going to... What? Refers to a class of numerous minor protective spirits in ancient Mesopotamian mythology. Major individual gods with unique names and roles. The term Lahmu, which is masculine, and Lahamu, which is feminine, generally translates to hairy one or muddy one, possibly representing the muddy silt of the primeval waters, or this lady is a hairy, muddy lady. She's a dirty lady. In the Babylonian creation epic Enuma Elish, the Lahmu and his sisters, consort Lahamu, are the firstborn deities created from the mingling of the sweet water god Apsu and the saltwater Tiamat. Okay. They are the ancestors of the major gods, including Anshar and Kishar, who in turn give birth to Anu, the sky god. Okay. So that's what they're talking about. Nice. So, very ancient protective spirits. They are the guardians of Enki's temple. Texts indicate that as many as 50 Lamu were believed to be doorkeepers of the Abzu temple of the water god Enki. And again, that's translated to EA and Akkadian. In Eridu. Holy shit. Is there a temple by Eridu? I'm sorry, guys. I'm jumping all over the place. If you know Matt LaCroix, and I would love to meet him, they're Lake Von in Turkey. Near... Is that near? Lake Von. Just do VAN. Lake Von in Turkey. No city named Eridu near it. Okay, Lake Von. Eridu is an ancient Mesopotamian city that is what, in Iraq? Okay, hundreds of miles away. I just wanted to make sure that was clear. But yeah, dang. If there's a temple and he's related to water and they're exploring Lake Van, which is in Turkey, which is kind of in the cradle of civilization. And who knows? Maybe he's right. Maybe Matt is correct. Maybe when they do this documentary and they go through the information, something important is down there at that temple. Another underwater place. Am I not in focus again? Get me. Thank you. All right. Let's keep moving. Very cool. The interpret king, Father Enki, in the land. Prosperity was made to Bergen. Bargain? Bergen in heaven and on earth for the great prince who travels in the land. Enki decreed its fate. Okay, now back to the notes. I have these. Sumer, great mountains, land of heaven and earth. Trailing glory, bestowing powers on the people from sunrise to sunset. Your powers are superior, untouchable, and your heart is complex and inscrutable. Ooh. Sounds like you're talking about a God that is beyond comprehension. Like heaven itself, your good creative force, in which gods too can be born, is beyond reach. Giving birth to kings who put on the good diadem, which is like a necklace, fancy necklace, to show, authority. Giving birth to the lords who wear the crown on their head. Your lord, the household. Your lord, the honored lord, sits with On, the king of On's days. Whoa. Father Enlil, the father of all lands, has blocked your impenetrability, like a cedar tree. The Anuna, the great gods, have taken up dwelling in your midst and consumed their food in your Giganu shrines. It's the ziggurats. And so they're, the physicality of this, they come down. They have these ziggurats, right? They're building it. They're doing all this stuff right here. We're around, just enjoying it, having a good time. We have cows around, birds in the sky, water, right? This is like the sentence where God's in Genesis with Adam and Eve, and then it just kind of stops and goes right into like the quote-unquote, they don't call it this anymore, but the fall of man, right? They don't think that's what it is. At least Kip Davis. But it's like giving you this visual imagery of what that looks like, which is, it's so cool. I understand Zechariah Sitchin now from reading this. I don't understand how he's tying it to maybe Akkadian is Semitic, so maybe he's tying some words in there. But like, it's just these great gods flying around, dwelling amongst you, consuming the food in the shrines you've built. And like, that has to be amazing. Like, man, if I wanted a time machine, I go here. Wherever this is happening, I want to go here. Just see what the heck that looks like. It reminds me of Atlantis, that Disney movie. May your household Sumer, may your sheepfolds be built, cattle multiply. May your Gigana touch the skies, Tower of Babel. May your good temples reach up to the heavens. May the Anuna determine the destinies in your midst. See, I read this a few times, and I'm still getting something new from it. Like, again, total side note, but like, that's not, I won't go there yet. I'll do it in another video. Now, 238 to 247. We're almost there, guys. He cleansed and purified the land of Dilmun. He placed Ninsikala in charge of it. He gave ... for the fish spawn, ate its ... fish, another reference to eating. Bestowed palms on the cultivated land, ate its dates ... Elam and looks like Makchi. This has ... space ... So a lot's missing there. To devour ... Nothing. The king endowed with the strength by Enlil destroyed their houses, demolished their walls. And I put a note, holy crap, is this Jericho? I'm reading my own typing, confused by what I don't know. I don't think there's anything with that, but good note. Typing Chase. Now, 250. Enki had lifted his eyes across the Euphrates. He stood up, full of lust like a rampant bull, lifted his penis, ejaculated and filled the Tigris with flowing water. So from him water flows. This is a more, graphic way of saying, like when Moses hit the stone. Interesting. He was like a wild cow mooing for its young in the wild grass. Wow, he really went after it to give us water. The Tigris, at his side like a rampant bull. By lifting his penis, he brought the bridal gift. Oh, interesting. That's a reference to both Christianity and in the, bridal chamber type deal, even the Gnostics. The Tigris rejoiced in its heart like a great wild bull when it was born, It brought water, flowing water. Indeed, its wine will be sweet. It brought barley, mottled barley. Indeed, the people will eat it. Okay. Real quick, mottled barley. It's barley that has like exotic spots or streaks or patches, giving it a weird cloudy appearance. It's typically a physical symptom of a physiological condition or disease on the plant than a specific type of barley. Oh. Well, so much for that water and that barley. It's got semen disease all over it. And so I got curious and I go, hey, I remember hearing that like psychedelics grow on wheat. So I typed that in. And what I got was rye is the most susceptible to ergot, which is like LSD, to its open pollination. But barley can also be infected. The disease is spread by wind-borne spores that affect the plants during a cool, wet flowering period. So it's possible. Malted barley itself does not inherently grow ergot. However, the conditions that favor some types of mottling, like fungal infections from wet, cool weather, might also increase the risk of ergot infection in the same crop. The ergot fungus physically replaces the grain with a large black structure, which is distinct from the mottling of the kernel itself. Okay. So, just wanted to point that out. I also thought magic mushrooms. Now, Enlil was delighted with Enki, and Nibru was glad. The Lord put on the diadem, right? Remember the ornate headdresses and necklace type deal that represent power, and they're most famously associated with other royalty in the Sumerian pantheon. As a sign of the lordship, he put on a good crown as a sign of his kingship, touching the ground on his left side. Plenty came forth out of the earth from him. 285-298. The Lord establishes a shrine, a holy shrine. This is where we go Lake Vaughn, whose interior is elaborately constructed. He established a shrine in the sea, a holy shrine, whose interior is elaborately constructed. The shrine whose interior is a tangled thread, it is beyond understanding. The shrine's emplacement is situated by the constellation The Field. The holy upper shrine's emplacement faces towards the Chariot constellation. I'm going to dive into that later. But the Field constellation and the Chariot constellation, I wonder what the hell that means. Its terrifying awesomeness is a rising wave. Its splendor is fearsome. Hold on. Whoa. Back up. I was thinking Lake Vaughn. If you want to go in the sea, right, and a shrine beyond understanding, UAP, UFO, coming in and out of water, Lake Vaughn's, this could be the two shrine places. It could be the one at Lake Vaughn and the one at the sea, depending on this constellation. But, whoa, dude. The Anu gods dare not approach it. This is the splendor is fearsome, ... To refresh their hearts, the palace rejoices. The Anuna stand by with prayers and supplications. They set up a great altar for Enki, and the Ingura for the Lord, ... The great prince, ... Space, ... The pelican of the sea, one line unclear. Whoa, dude. This is awesome. So they'd have a great altar for Enki. And it's specific in design, very similar to tabernacle. That's what I put. 309-317, he called the rain called to the reign of the heaven, he, ... as floating clouds. Okay, another one there. Spaceship. Not really, but who knows? He made ... rising at the horizon. Enki, placed in charge of all this, him who rides on the great storms. Also, early Yahweh and El worship, maybe even Baal. All were storm gods. So keep that in mind. Who attacks with lightning bolts the holy bar, which blocks the entrance to the interior of heaven. The son of On, the canal inspector of heaven and earth, Iker, the bringer of plenty, the son of On. Okay, right there. A storm god who created everything and blocks the entrance to the interior of heaven. It reminds me of when Adam and Eve get kicked out. And God puts up the flaming swords to guard heaven. Whoa! Same thing, same story. The Lord called the cultivated fields, bestowed on them mottled barley. Enki made chickpeas, lentils, and ... grow. He heaped up into piles the early mottled and Enuna varieties of barley. And I just put Enuha highlights the importance of the grain as a divine gift and a key resource for the civilization. Enki multiplied the stockpiles and the stacks. With Enlil's help, he enhanced the people's prosperity. Enki placed in charge of all this, whose head and body are dappled. What is dappled? Dappled, whose face is covered in syrup. What? Enki is placing someone in charge. I see. That makes sense. I was like, dappled. The mistress who causes sexual intercourse. Power of the land, the life of the black-headed Aknan, the good bread of the whole world. Whoa. He tied down the strings, coordinated them with the foundations. With the power of the assembly, he planned a house and performed the purification rituals. The great prince put down the foundations and laid the bricks. Whoa. Enki placed in charge all of this. Him whose foundation once laid do not sag, whose good houses once built do not collapse. Whoa. Enki placed in charge of all this. Him whose foundations once laid do not sag. So he's done it before. He's built before. Whose good houses do not collapse. Whose vaults reach up into the heart of the heavens like a rainbow. Rainbow, reference to after the flood. Do not collapse. Okay, probably megalithic. Mikdama, Enlil's master builder. And I said, who the heck is this person? So it was the name of the divine architect and patron god of house construction. Ties down the strings, surveying lines, coordinates them with the foundation. He plans the houses, performs purification rituals. The power of the assembly, I'm guessing that means the gods. Laying foundations that would not sag and building houses whose structures would not collapse. Definitely megalithic. Creating the vaults that reach up into the heavens. Wow. Interesting. Total side note, but I wonder if that's referencing, that sounds like human beings not making ziggurats. Sounds like Mukdama does. 349, 357. He still the master builder. I wonder what this is about. He fastened a lapis lazuli beard to the high plane and made it wear a lapis lazuli headdress. He made this good place perfect. Perfect. Oh, like Eden maybe? With grasses and herbs in abundance. Get that shrooms. He made the animals copulate. Enki placed in charge of them the hero who is the crown of the high plain, who is the king of the countryside. The great lion of the high plain, the muscular, the hefty, the burly strength of Enlil, Kakan, the king of the hills. An ancient Sumerian, this is my notes, he was the god associated with animals, specifically as the herdsman or patron deity of the dry land. And all creatures. Got it. So again, I'm just going to skip through this. He builds all this stuff, and it says, again, brought luxury to the gods' dining places. He's create this. It's like we're around to do stuff, and they're just doing whatever they want. Building all around us. Enki placed in charge of all this the king, the good provider of Inanna, the friend of On, son-in-law of the youth Suan, holy spouse of Anu. The lady of the great powers who allows sexual intercourse in the open squares of Kulaba. Ooh. Enlil was delighted with Enki, and Nibiru was glad. He demarcated borders and fixed boundaries. For the Ikanu gods, Enki situated dwellings in cities and disposed agricultural lands into the fields. So he created dwelling places and farming. Enki placed in charge of the whole of heaven and earth the hero, the bull who comes out of the Hakura forest, bellowing truculently. The youth Utu. Okay, another one. Another reference, 412, 417. The lapis lazuli measuring tape is to hang over the arm. She is to proclaim all the great powers, to demarcate boundaries and mark borders. She is to be the scribe of the land. Planning of the gods' meals is to be in her hands. Why do they need to eat so much? Why are they worried about eating? Anyway. Inanna, you heap up human heads like piles of dust. Oh. You sow heads like seeds. Inanna, you destroy what should not be destroyed. Oh, Inanna's killing us. And Enki's pissed about it. Whoa. You create what should not be created. You never grow weary with admirers looking at you. You know nothing of tying the ropes on deep wells. Again, this one's broken up, but it's the same thing. But now the heart is overflowed, the land is restored, Enlil's heart is overflowed, land is restored. In his overflowing heart of mankind, 4 lines unclear, but in this, and it says ... So this was supposed to be the broken bottom of the tablet, but it did mention lapis lazuli again. 10 lines unclear. End it, 472. Praise be to Father Enki. What a walkthrough, guys. Holy crap. Love it. I love this shit. I don't know if I can do that. I don't say anything. I'm feeling it. It's good. This was so fun. So, to conclude, and I know I've gone long, so thank you guys for watching here. So, the whole thing is Enki and Ea and Yahweh, right? Enki is like Ea. That is Enki and Akkadian. So that is Semitic. It's a Semitic language. So I guess, yeah. So Yahweh, Hebrew, also Semitic language. So I was trying to find tie-ins, right? And so, again, some of the ideas are like perceived parallels or parallels that I noticed. But both are associated with knowledge, a little bit of trickery, and water. Right? Enki is linked to, of course, the Babylonian flood myth and the creation of human beings, similar to Yahweh flooding and creating human beings. And so then I started going through, and I found this fun little Reddit source here. But it was tying in some of these gods that get punished for giving us the gift of knowledge, essentially, is what this came down to. And of course, it isn't stated in Genesis, but just consensus is that, the adversary, right, the Lucifer character, the Satan character, is the serpent that gave Eve the apple, right? Enki is the god who created humanity and gave them knowledge. Prometheus is the figure who stole fire from Zeus and gave it to humans. And it says, again, I typed this, but, sorry, I'm still reeling from this text. Like, this is awesome. Like, I want to have this and, like, do an expose on all this stuff. All these entities were punished by a higher being for giving humans knowledge. And so Enki was punished later, in the story by Enlil, because he saved, Untapishtim, I think. I'm not familiar with that one, but I know he saved humanity just like God helped Noah. So, of course, we all know Prometheus was punished. He had his liver, eaten up. And I do know that, like, Satan means adversary and Lucifer is lightbringer. I do remember those. Forgot from which book. And so if we're rolling with that, then I assume that the fire symbolizes knowledge in some way. So if it weren't for that, then we would just be another animal. Or just be another piece of, like, yeah, we would just be like the cows or any of the other animals while these gods are doing their thing. Whoa. It has allowed us to build this knowledge, civilization, art, explore the mysteries of the universe, yada, yada, yada. Now, I found this in one of the comments. I thought it was interesting. However, though, this knowledge has also come with a cost. If it weren't for that fire, we'd still be in paradise. Connected to the source like all living and non-living things. And it said, this person said, including ETs, the rocks, the plants, nature. Because of that fire, we humans are corrupted and banished from the Garden of Eden in that case. All right, give or take. I'd like to not just, be a monkey. I like being me right now. Something else I put together was that Enki and Prometheus are said to create humanity from clay. So is Yahweh. And then, remember Viracocha? Same thing, but his are little pebbles sometimes. It's clay or pebbles. And so, to me, it sounds like we're rhyming a bit. And in rhyming those things, you guys, I really do. I want you guys to take this and run with it. And if you have anything, if you know something that I don't, which you definitely do, send it to me. Put it in the comments. Do something. I want to keep following up on this. I went into it with something else. I was going to just start on Sumerian, going to be a short 30-minute clip. Now we're pushing some good time. But I think it's worthy of doing this academically. Not saying I'm an academic. I'm just saying, yeah, just like I keep trying to reiterate, we're going to be textually accurate. We're going to see what we can find. And, like, why can't we find something? Like, what's so heretical about me and you and anybody else watching this or seeing this doing something that goes against mainstream ideology? Now, if you're blatantly just doing it because, I want to, even though the general idea is like, no, that's not true, you got to put your ego aside and then work from there. So I'm not saying like, I'm all right, these are aliens for sure, but the story's beautiful. I loved it. I love this tablet. I almost said, can I buy it? I'm like, where the heck? Also, how much would that be? It'd be insane. I go, I have a printer. I'm just going to print it out. Then I can own it. So to conclude, I wanted to bring that out and show you maybe some of the beauty of like some of these tablets. And then we'll go into some more myths. And, I think with that one, we can do a really fun speculation Sunday and get into it and see, ooh, what would that look like? And who knows, nowadays, I could probably just put in what I'm thinking it would look like and AI would put a video up and you could show you. But the two others, of course, I have two last thoughts. They're gods that are associated with giving humans knowledge, which in this case would be fire. It's Thoth, right? Written language, knowledge to human beings, punished by Ra, revealing too much. Quetzalcoatl, right? Aztecs, created human beings, given them the gift of knowledge, but then was banished from Earth by the other gods for violating the laws. Okie dokies. And again, there was a very unique reference to Marduk and Tiamat in the story, the Enuma Elish, but I don't think that's relevant anymore. So that, I know it's a lot, but that was something I really wanted to do. So thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. I'll link the text. And guys, have at it. Let me see what you find. See you Sunday. Joel. Pow, pow, pow. Holy cow, dude. Awesome.